Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Port Orchard's Economic Development and Tourism Committee meeting. It's Monday, August 9th, 9:30 a.m. We have a published agenda, and if there are any members of the public that are viewing this as we get into
John,
discussion.
I just noticed that I popped over and looked, and you've got Corrine Haydock from POPSA and Matt Murphy sitting out there. And I think based on the conversation which you had, you want them in here as panelists.
Correct. So yeah, if we could pull them over.
I don't know how to make them panelists while the meeting is in progress.
We just let them join.
No, Brandy does. You elevate them.
Right. I think that's different than making them a panelist.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to elevate them and bring them into the meeting.
Yeah, just bring them in.
Yeah, so Carrie, if you go to the attendees tab, do you see the attendees tab on the right-hand side? So when you click, okay, so if you click on the attendees piece and then you hover over, pick a name. I can't remember if there should be 3 dots or there's something that says allows you to extend it. So if you right click, it'll tell you to promote to panelist. I can't remember if it's 3 dots or not. There you go. Oh no, that's Fred coming in.
Fred and Noah.
I see. Oh, wait. Promote to panelist.
Yes. And you can only do it.
We're all learning here.
There we
There
go.
we go. There comes Corrine.
And Matt, I
Yep.
think.
Yep, there we go.
Yep. Okay.
And then you
Everyone-
would do the same thing, Carrie, you would, except for you would go to the panelist. And so, for example, if somebody were to, you want them back into the public piece, you would do the same thing, move them to the public.
Okay.
And you would be the same thing. If something gets out of hand, you can right click and remove them from the meeting.
Okay. And Ms. Haydock should also be included as a panelist in future. Okay.
I think so.
Representing POPSA, yep.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay, so again, I'll continue. We've got a published agenda. If there are members of the public that are attending today, and I'll ask for open discussion as we get to each agenda item. You can use the raise your hand feature. You can be brought over and participate at that time. So we will go ahead and continue on. Our first business item is our business community discussion. So I will ask Matt or Corrine or anyone else if they have any updates on what they're seeing or hearing out in the community.
Well, I don't know if I want to steal any of Corrine's thunder, but I would like to say that it is great to see things happening downtown again and across the city. Cruise was this weekend and it was great. We did something out at Whiskey Gulch this weekend that was, the Kitsap County Cornhole Classic, which was a big success. And again, that's all I can say is it's great to see things going again. I'd hate to see us backtrack at all, but I think we're all kind of prepared for that if it comes. But we have been doing more things out there in the community, and the community has been embracing it. Corrine, would you agree?
Yeah. I don't want it to backtrack, and I'm not prepared for that, but
No.
the downtown, there is a few things I wanted to comment on if you allow me to. For one thing, it came to my attention this last week, just thinking about things, aside from Myrie's and the theater, Dragonfly Theater building, which I'll speak to in a second, there's only 2 retail spaces at street level that are not leased out.
Mhm.
And they're both Monsieur pieces, Abaddon Holdings pieces. And I think that's, to me, it's a big commentary. We have been putting people into retail spaces, and downtown is very busy. Our restaurant's very busy. All restaurants are very busy. That's a whole nother problem right now across the state, but it's very busy downtown. I think things are really looking up, and yesterday was amazing. I have to say, I wasn't sure what kind of response the car clubs would have, and there was cars from one end to the other in every little side street. So hopefully some of you were able to go downtown and experience that. People are very, very happy to be out. I did want to, speak to personal business developments, I think you're all aware that my husband, Steve, and my son and daughter-in-law, Josh and Sarah Johnson, we bought the Dragonfly building. So that was something we've looked at for a long time, got very serious about 6 months ago, and did at the end of June. So I think that, and the response from the community to our Facebook posts and the article that the Kitsap Daily News has been really positive, very encouraging. And people are so excited, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's a long haul. We are going to try to do a meeting in September, a community kind of rally, kind of not open to the public per se, but reach out to a lot of people and invite them. And all of you, of course, would be invited, and I hope some of you can attend. Tentatively, we're looking at September 2nd, but we're working on that. And we've got a long list of potential board members because we will start a not-for-profit. We're in the process of doing that right now for the theater part of the building. We're getting some good responses. There's a ton of people out there that want this to happen. So the only other thing I was going to mention from our personal business developments is I think most of you know we had an office building for Waterman Mitigation Partners at the complex just past Kentucky Fried Chicken, which we own with partners. And we moved that office to the former swim deck building. And I know a couple of you were able to be there at our first return to Port Orchard Green Drinks a week and a half or two ago. And it's a perfect spot for us to have an office for now. And if you don't know, that's part of our Peninsula Umbrella Mitigation Bank, which you'll continue to hear more about in the next, by fall, will become much more public. And that building and the house next to it will eventually be demolished, and that whole estuary will be restored, and we'll be taking out the fill. So in the meantime, we have a fabulous spot for an office. We'll sit at our laptops and look out at the river otter and the deer and the heron, and it's great. So John L. Scott is moving into the office we previously have, which most of you I think know that was West Sound Bank at one time. They're moving in there this fall. We are working on a whole development plan for that whole complex and pushing ahead with that slowly but surely. So Steve and I are personally excited to be part of downtown, in the middle, and either end of town. So, and there's some other developments too, but I mostly just I just really want to say that downtown Port Orchard is trying and starting to thrive. And I can't speak to every single business because some businesses still don't have good hours and maybe a product that not everybody always wants. But generally speaking, I think downtown is really moving in the right direction. And of course, that doesn't even count the master plan or the community event center, which I will add that we look at being a intro to the community event center at the Dragonfly Theater, something that we can use short-term for small groups once it's up and ready before the event center is going. And by the way, it won't be called Dragonfly. We're still working on that. So unless you got any questions,
no, thank you for the updates and congratulations on all of that. Go ahead, Rob.
So that's a great update, Corinne. And I just want to add on to what Matt said. I spent most of the day yesterday downtown at various aspects of the car show, and the preliminary numbers I heard were around 500 cars, which is a huge showing. And police chief had a drone up, and they estimated the crowd throughout the day at about 15,000, which is a big number for that particular weekend event. Highlight of the day for me, and I'm feeling it in my shoulder today, is I put the police chief down 7 times in the dunk tank and only got the fire chief once, but I did get him eventually.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, anyone else want to have any sort of comments on the community discussion, or is there any public in the waiting room that wants to address any comments? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to our second agenda item, traffic routing, road closures, parking for downtown events. Fred, do you want to make an introduction here?
Yeah, basically, I just thought this should be discussed because there has been a tradition of nonprofits closing Bay Street, and I thought this might be a good time for the committee and perhaps council to just revisit this. And Beck was kind enough to provide some of the ordinances that we may want to look at. I know that in the past, the police have been responsible for closing Bay Street, and this is something that we are moving away from, or seem to be. So I just thought it might be a good time for council to weigh in and see if we just want to tweak any of our ordinances.
Okay, so we've got the got those documents in front of us, and it appears the first section here that was highlighted is section 12. This talks about the current language of how, I guess, how we go about after city council approves an event, the applicant must provide to the city clerk's office no more than 40 days after submitting the application, at least one of the following 3 documents: an event agreement with WashDOT, a letter of acknowledgement from WashDOT, or written proof that the event organizer has submitted the completed application to WashDOT.
Carrie, could I ask that you maybe share this document for everybody's benefit? Yes.
There we go.
Thank you.
It's that
Okay.
highlighted section there.
I just figured out why the mayor told me this can be interpreted 2 different ways. Because the way I read number 12 is that in order for an event to be close our street, it needed city approval. The actual action to close the street needed city approval. We have one on our agenda tomorrow night for the car show out at the Christian Life Center. And because we have always approved the road closure, that was my assumption. And I was taken back when road closures are happening without city approval. And then when I questioned that, I was directed to the other highlighted ordinance on the next section of processing the applications. And that said that there are certain special events that have been approved by the city council by resolution. And so then when we looked at that resolution specific, okay, there we go. Okay. If you want to just go back up a little bit and show that the section there, I've highlighted it, special events previously approved by the city council by resolution. And so then when we actually go down to the resolution, the part where we resolve, keep going further. Okay, stop right there. Under that section 1, is it, you can read the whole thing, but the last few words says without requiring reimbursement expenses. This resolution does not address at all street closures. It simply addresses not requiring reimbursement for expenses. And so with that, it seemed to me that it was appropriate for council to realize or figure out exactly what our intent is. Because this particular resolution was established in 2009. And I personally find it difficult to support something like this in perpetuity because events change and there are a lot of arguments there or discussions to be had. What my concern is right now is what I see is language that is not definitive in our code. And that's what I wanted to bring up for discussion.
We also have events that no longer
exist.
are happening either. So the list isn't as accurate as it needs to be.
Well, in about 2014 or 15, we included the Mustang show to that list also. I was on council at that time. And the history as I remember it is we weren't really charging anybody. And then when we decided we were going to charge them, the Mustangs came to us and said, we've been doing this event for 25 years. Why are we not on the list? And so we put them on the list also. But again, that was for reimbursement of expenses. It had nothing to do with closing this State Road 166.
Yeah. And this is great conversation, and we definitely need to look at this stuff once in a while. I just want to, this year in particular, we've done 6 months worth of work in 2 or 3 weeks to try to help. And some things probably got missed, and so we've been winging it a little bit. And the chief has brought some really good, if you were downtown this weekend, we had, water fill barriers on many streets, and we did things differently in a much safer manner. And these are all changes that everybody had to get their arms around, and we've done very well. So I appreciate that we're looking at this, and just recognize that we haven't done things exactly the way we'd like to this year, because we've been pedaling as fast as we can.
One recommendation may be, Rob, if you want to talk to our attorney just to see if anything in this resolution is troublesome. Just the whole idea of exempting from reimbursement of expenses, just to kind of double check that we can be doing that. And then maybe what we do is, if there's anything that's already in here, whether it's within the existing code or in this resolution, maybe bring this topic back once we have answers, just to a work study session, and get the whole council to weigh in on it, because there's going to be a lot of differing probably feedback. And so I think that might be the best venue for it. But I think it does need to be dusted off and cleaned up, as we are seeing. There's a lot of these events don't even exist anymore. Yeah.
And we're glad to do that. I think where the brush that, from the gifting of public funds is that first sentence, that these events are deemed to have a benefit to the city at large.
Okay. Yeah.
And
But it does.
Yeah.
I agree with Sean. My concern, immediate concern, is going back to the COVID situation, which has complicated all of these events. I was shocked that we would allow a Battle of the Bands to close State Route 166. The actual cruise, where you have a car show and you have people mingling and walking and doing a lot of things, didn't give me pause. But when we support an event that puts people close together for long or for significant periods of time, I'm wondering about public safety. I have that very concern with the parade. With the parade, we have people lining State Route 166 for, I'm going to say an hour. It may be less. It may be a half hour before the parade starts, and then the parade lasts an hour or two. I'm just not sure that we as a city council should be closing our streets or promoting that activity at this time. And I would not want to see that particular road closure and event happen without a discussion by the city council.
Yeah, and honestly, where I see at the beginning of that resolution where there's benefit to the city, I just think other events could make the same claim that maybe don't appear on this list, right? So I wouldn't mind having just a legal opinion, right? I think we've all seen things that were done in the past that today, with different legal advice, we wouldn't do it again. So I think it's a great opportunity to dust this off and bring it in front of the full council and just have another discussion, right? Our city's changing. We've been talking about that for a year now, and I think we need to be open to doing things differently where it's in the best interest of our city to do so. And if it's not broken, then we won't fix it.
also think we definitely need to make sure that the merchants, especially POBSA, are involved, because I hear occasionally from some who are concerned about closures on a Saturday, for example, and especially when their parking is taken away. We recently heard from Cody at the Peninsula Beverage Company stating that, a week of a carnival would have affected his business by what he'd say 8 to 20,000. So if these sort of things are happening, and it's kind of a nice problem to have, because in the past we didn't hear from merchants and restaurateurs who could put figures on what they were missing out on. But I think it's a good time to just sort of look at it again and say, do we really want to close down Bay Street for something like this that's going to impact some of the businesses?
Yep.
Yeah, we always haven't had most of nearly all of our retail spaces full.
Exactly. And as redevelopment continues, this is going to be more and more challenging.
Yeah, I saw Matt had his hand raised, John.
Go ahead, Matt.
I got two things that I will forward to Carrie and to Brandy to forward. I gave it to Fred once before. This whole idea of gifting of public funds, a whole slew of research that was conducted by MSRC. And while I realize that MSRC is not the law, many cities refer to it as guidance and reference, and it basically defines that, if whatever the city is doing is a fundamental purpose of government, it's not the gifting of public funds. So if that means putting up barricades for public safety, having Public Works put up barricades for public safety is not a gifting of public funds to, in order to support an event. I've got this document. I will forward it on. And then and the next thing I'd like to say is, as far as the merchants and stuff for downtown are concerned, there may be one or two, but I think Corrine may concur that there's quite a few of them that do appreciate it. And I would like to say that there is not a single business in the world, and those of you who are from the business world realize this, there's not a single business in the world that'll get somebody to come in twice if they don't come in once. And I would say that the events going on downtown, while they may slow down business for a day, it introduces those businesses to hundreds of new people that didn't know they existed. And so it is really hard to judge the success or failure or the impact of a business based on a 1 or a 2 day event in a downtown area, because you don't know who's going to come back. I mean, how many people come back to the candy shop because they saw it when they were downtown on a 1 day event? So I think it'd be short-sighted to discount the long-term effects of the downtown events.
Thank you.
Closing on this, Brandy, can you make sure that this particular resolution is forwarded to the city attorney and have her look at section 1 here as it relates to gifting of public funds? And Matt has some MSRC research too. So
yeah, and if that's the case, we wouldn't need this resolution that is calling out 9 events, right? Because others would perhaps.
Yeah.
So anyway, more discussion.
I appreciate Mr. Murphy's comment, but he's not an attorney, and
understand
the cause of I agree that is Public Works should do public safety things, but we're doing it for specific reasons. I think we've covered it, but we'll research it and confirm.
Okay, in addition to that resolution, Mayor, and I don't know whether we do this before it goes or as part of the full council work study discussion, but item 12 in the 5.94.040, where it talks about, it says upon city council approval of the event, and city council doesn't approve events. We have that done, keep going, not that one. That one refers to there, okay. It says upon city council approval of the event. Now, I had always read that to say it needs city council approval before they close the road. And that is how I believe we've been practicing. But I just want to make sure that this section is clear. Do we just approve the event or are we approving the road closure? Because I see those as two separate pieces. So I would like some clarification on that.
Maybe Brandy can speak to her. She's the one processing these and what her practices are.
Yeah, so my understanding of this section here is that council wanted the opportunity to determine whether they want State Route 166 closed before the state. So if there is an event that wants to close the state highway, the applicant, because of the state's timing as well as the city's timeline to submit an application, they could simultaneously put in a request to WashDOT and then submit their event to the city of Port Orchard. And then what I would do is, if it's not on that resolution, if it wasn't a previous event approved by the council, it would go before council for them to approve that event. Because if the council didn't want that road closed, then there's no point for the applicant to move forward asking WashDOT to close it, because council said no. So this year, when the reason why you guys have seen events that the reason why you guys seen road closure this year is for Harrison. Historically, we didn't close Harrison. It was open partially, but this year there was a comment that no, it needs to be closed completely. And so you guys had not in the past approved Harrison as a closure. So that's why it went before council. The historical events, I think this ordinance has been in place since 2016. So it was my understanding when we developed this process, the historical events, which means the parade, the cruise that closed that state highway, the council had previously approved it. So there's no need to staff to bring forward. However, I do understand that the scope of events did change a particular applicant, and that should have gone before council. So that was an error on my end. So that's how we process the event. So the cruise-in, because we are closing multiple streets, I think it's the cruise-in Sunday, that is going before council because, again, you guys are required to approve that closure. Staff does not have the ability to do that.
Right. So, and I appreciate the work you do, Brandy, and how you've processed this in the past. My concern now is moving forward, we need clarification as to what this says, because I see it saying the council approved the event.
Right.
And not the road closure. And I always thought we needed to approve the road closure. So I would like some clarification, and perhaps, and again, it's part of the full council's discussion as to whether this needs to be reworded so that it's easily understood and not left to interpretation.
Yeah, I agree. I think.
Yeah, I agree as well. And just in following on, right, as we learned with this other resolution, the resolution's about, the reimbursement of expenses. And so I don't see anywhere in here that just because an event is approved 1 year, that it's approved into perpetuity.
Yeah. So
just cleanup necessary.
Yeah, there is some cleanup necessary. So you got a grasp of this. You're the expert in this subject matter, Brandy. You got a grasp of what it is we're trying. So to bring back some potential draft language to that work study, and to vet that language and the gifting aspect through the attorney. And unless we want this as a discussion item as at one of our business meetings, our September work study is quite full. So that we're looking at October for the work study for you guys to full council to see that. Does this committee want to see that draft language ahead of, because you'll have another committee meet?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, show us the draft language ahead of October and we'll get it on the October work study. I think this is too big for a discussion item. I think this is going to go on for quite a while.
Okay.
And I can concur with that. We'll see how Fred feels. I can concur with that. Again, I am expressing concern about allowing a parade and I support the parade. However, in the COVID environment we are right now, with the acceleration of the variant, I'm wondering if it's prudent for the city to allow that road closure for that, or to approve that particular event.
And just for the, clarification as well, is I do plan bringing this application before the council because it was not held on the same day that it had historically. So I had planned originally to bring this before council. So the council will have an opportunity to confirm the closure for that particular weekend.
Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate that a great deal.
And then also just to point out as well is that legal counsel, public works, law enforcement, and we're going to sit down here in the next 30 to 45 days. And it sounds like that we need to escalate that time to not only look at the application, but as well as the code, just because of things have changed. And so we wanted that opportunity to look at the code and the application to see what needs to be changed, and then give the applicant some time to adjust and get notification if there are any changes for 2022. So we had already planned on that, and so we'll just escalate it. And so there may be some minor changes in addition to the items that you guys talked about tonight that will be brought before the committee as well for your consideration.
And you might not have to escalate it, just thinking of timing. If this could be done and brought back to this committee the first meeting of October, the work study would then be 2 weeks out from that,
Okay.
or another week out. So it should buy you the time that you need.
Perfect.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Let's go on to agenda item number 3, downtown multi-day vendor fairs. Beck.
Yeah, I mentioned this at our last meeting. And at that time, Kitsap Transit was not running the foot ferry, which they have now started doing on Sundays. But I do not believe they had, although they plan to in the future, they have not yet started Sunday bus service. And just historically, it seems to me our most successful events occur on Sundays. They're one-day events. I would speak to the cruise that we just had. I would speak to the Mustang event that has happened in the past. And, you know, they're one-day events on Sundays. And I realize downtown is changing, and this may just be part of that also. But we didn't have a lot of businesses downtown that were open on Sundays. And so it didn't have we didn't have the effect of a multi-day event taking up parking and doing a lot of other things. So I was just wondering if we wanted to just have a discussion on multi-day events compared to just a single day or a Sunday event. Because we seem to run into problems when we're doing closures on Saturdays and Fridays.
And I don't know if you want me to point out a section of the code that relates to the parking lots for multiple day events.
Okay.
So just a reminder for compensation piece is that the downtown parking lot usage, should a special event require the use of all of downtown parking lots, 3 and 4, commonly known as the waterfront park, for 2 or more consecutive weekdays, excluding federal holidays, the applicant shall compensate the city for the lost revenue for the use of those parking lots at $300 plus excise tax per weekday. So as far as compensation part, there's a little bit.
Right, for the lack of revenue. But that doesn't address, and I was not necessarily thinking of weekdays. That doesn't address the inconvenience for commuters. And again, on Sundays, many of our personal services businesses are not open, but they are open on Saturdays. And anyway, I just wanted to throw it out for discussion because I wasn't sure multi-day events were necessarily appropriate for the use of our parking lot, where I fully support Sunday events.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Beck. And again, kind of dusting something off. I mean, that $300 isn't even close to breaking even the revenue loss on those city parking lots at $8 a vehicle per day.
So is there some direction that you want to provide me and other staff that are working on this section of the code? Or your additional thoughts on multi-day
Day
event
events.
for the vendors for those parking lots? Do you want us to look to see what other jurisdictions do? I mean, I'm not quite sure. Do we want to put a draft in
You
the
know,
code that says we prohibit it?
Being real candid about it, I probably wouldn't have concern on this if it were one multi-day event a year. But we have various organizations that want to have multiple multi-day events. And that just seems greedy to me. It seems, and I just can't support multiple multi-day events. I can support Sunday events on a small scale, but what the conversation really is downtown is changing, and as downtown changes, the events downtown need to change also. And as our city grows, the quality of the events we put on is as important as the quantity of events.
Good, Rob.
If I may, how about we just incorporate some language that any multi-day event needs to be evaluated and brought before the city council for approval. And that way we're giving it a thorough review,
Right.
whether it's appropriate or not.
Yeah, I like that. Any other comments on this particular item? Okay. Last item on the agenda is just the monthly DCD permit activity report. Again, you can tell that things continue to be busy in that department and lots happening out there. Does anybody want to make any comments on that? Typically, it's just a report that we independently review.
Nick, as you're aware, last week had his Achilles surgery, and I'm certain that I'll hear from him this week, but he was out of the office, and I hope he's back later this week or next week for sure. And Carrie, do you have any of the data? I know you guys are still busy, but I don't have any concrete data myself.
I don't. If you're talking about these permit applications, I checked in with Nick this morning and asked if there was anything he specifically wanted me to mention about any of these, and he said no. But if you have questions about any of them, let me know, and I'll check with our permit center, and I can follow up with you with more information.
Yeah, no, and I think that's exactly why this has just become kind of a standing document, as part of our agenda, is just to, not only have the committee members, city council members of the public just understand just the velocity of these permit applications. So it's almost a read-only document, and if it triggers questions, then perfect. But it's just nice to have this monthly report so everyone kind of understands what's going on. So I don't expect a full report on this every month.
We'll look towards getting a report next month at your meeting when Nick gets back in the office.
But this satisfies me. Okay, any good of the orders? All right, seeing there's none, we'll let everyone get back off to their normal Monday. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see some of you at tomorrow's city council meeting. Thanks everyone for your involvement. Bye-bye.
Thank you.